because new cars don't have the value proposition they once did. They continue to go up in price and down in quality. Just stop buying them. Getting gang stalked by giant companies and them recording my every move in my vehicle and then showing me advertising was not a problem I needed fixed. Modern transmissions are specifically designed to fail outside a warranty. When you buy these vehicles, you're sending a message to them that is the only language they understand, which is money.
All right, we're back with Nate from NextGen. Nate, thanks for joining us. And we're going to talk about right to repair today and also driver impairment detection technology in vehicles. So Nate, there's a lot in the news. President Trump just said in the White House that General Motors and Ford came to the White House because they didn't want people fixing their own vehicles. And then the Ford CEO responded. Did you see his response in a video?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I absolutely did.
We'll play that here real quick. I want to get your reaction. I think you're going to have plenty to say.
I think Ford's position is very reasonable. We're really a big advocate for the ability to repair a vehicle, but it has to be done at a reasonable cost. But
you don't want people repairing their own vehicles.
No, that's fine. Not for warranty work, though. These are very complicated cars, and we don't think that's safe for many of the repairs on our vehicles. Someone at home like myself could never do it. I mean, I have no problem working on a 73 Bronco. To work on a brand new Bronco, I need all sorts of specialty tools. That's something that, we would put people's lives at risk.
It will put people's lives at risk if they allow you to work on your car, or independent shops for that matter, like former master techs that run their own independent shops. Oh, they can't work on cars either. What do you think about that?
Well, I think this is what happens when you drink too much tap water. So he knows better. No, I'm so serious. He knows better because he was the general manager at Lexus. I mean, Jim Farley put decades in at Toyota, and it was during Toyota's best years, the modern era before they started having quality issues like they have recently, specifically the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. So he knows better. He's not dumb. He's doing what the shareholders want him to do. And the chair, the board, whoever you want to label them as, the people that he answers to are the equity holders. Because if he behaves in a way where Ford's stock starts to go down, he's out of a job. And then, that giant paycheck goes away. So, he's doing the bidding of his boss, which is the equity holders in the company. Everybody answers to the shareholders. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you want to see who's in charge, it's not the customer. The shareholders are the only true customers. I'm going to get shirts made with it. I say it all the time. The shareholders are the only true customers. And that's why he's speaking this way. He knows better.
Yeah. And I think part of this is the complexity. Do you think the complexity of the vehicles justifies? I mean, that seems to be their angle, right? They're just going to make everything so complex that then they can claim that it's unsafe or impossible for people to work on other than them. And
so who's making them complicated? I mean, right. The guy acts like he doesn't run the company.
Right.
So it's all delusional. Now, as I've said in the past, and I'll say again, half the blame here goes to the OEM cartels. And that the reason I use that language is because they really, if you think about it, they don't operate much differently than gangs. They suppress anybody trying to get into their territory. They bully people that don't want to be in their organization. If you dissent from the organization, you become an enemy. We saw this with Faisal Khalaf, specifically at Ford Motor Company. They run like gangs. They operate like gangs. That's why I use this language. And I'm sure lots of big companies do that, but I can only speak to the automotive industry because I design automotive parts for a living. That's what I do. It's so obvious that he knows better. I mean, look at his face. Does that look like somebody who believes in the message? Or does that look like somebody that's about to recite a prepared statement that they know they disagree with, but they have to? And if they don't, then they stop making $3 million a month. I mean, it's just a head game. The fact that anybody takes it seriously is scary to me. And the other thing, and I think maybe this is the more radical point to me, is they say that working on a modern car is so complicated that it's dangerous. I find that personally aggrieving because my entire purpose, what my firm does, is we design transmission upgrades that are specifically designed to be disaster prevention kits that the average person can install. That's what we do. We sell tens of thousands of parts, thousands of kits. This is our market. And 90% of our products are installed in vehicles that are less than 20 years old. 90%. The vast majority of them. 9 out of $10 spent here are spent on parts for a modern vehicle. And like I said, 70% of our installs are done by the end user, and about 30% are done by dealers, private repair facilities, whatever. And then we've got 1 or 2% that are somehow not in those two categories. So virtually all of what we do is advocating for right to repair on modern vehicles. If we are able to get people who have never worked on a transmission to successfully repair or upgrade their modern transmission with 8 or 10 speeds, then I don't want to hear how somebody is going to die in a fiery explosion if they change their cam phasers. I just don't buy into that. That's a ridiculous claim. Jim Farley is being ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the end game is they want everything to be digitized. So this is where I think it's going. I think they're trying to get to a point where you can't upgrade or change out almost any part in vehicles because it has to be digitally authorized. Like,
yeah,
it could be light bulbs or whatever. It's not going to work until you get it digitally authorized. And they'll just claim security. That's always their fallback as well. It's just not secure to have you repair your own vehicle or an independent shop.
Well, Louis Rossman did a video about this, and I think it was a great video. And I don't know what to tell people to search to find the commercial, but I think you're going to know what I was talking about. There was a commercial in Massachusetts pressuring people to vote no on a right to repair bill. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the claim, rather than Jim Farley saying, well, you'll just die. You'll die if you change your own oil. Duh. The claim was that you would be sexually accosted in a parking lot. You'd be assaulted in a parking lot or a parking garage if your local mechanic was allowed to access the information needed to fix your car. They had some bullshit organization saying that a predator might be able to use this information to know if you're alone or where you're at. And what are you talking about? And you know why they do this? And here are the numbers behind this that you're not going to hear from anyone but me. 50% of the voting populace is female, but 70% of new car purchases are female, right? The reason this is important information is women trust the automotive industry a lot more than men do. And so when you air commercials like that, you're taking half of the voting population and saying, hey, we know that you're sensitive to the topic of assault and abuse. And we also know that you probably don't know as much about cars as male voters do. And then they use a commercial like that to manipulate people and hopefully drive a wedge between people that know more about cars, which is usually men, and people that know less, which is usually women. I'm not saying women don't know what they're talking about or anything. It's just most women are not into cars. That is a fact. It's a really manipulative and disgusting way to mislead voters. And this is what they do every time. There's going to be a safety issue. The vehicle's going to blow up. You're going to die. You're going to get raped in a parking lot. And it sounds stupid, but this is what they say. This is literally what they say. You're going to get assaulted in a parking lot. You're going to die. People, as Jim Farley just said, people's lives will be in danger if they work on their own modern Ford Bronco. Brother, their life will be in danger if they don't work on it because it's a piece of
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And kind of dovetailing into the new technology that's coming out in either 27 or 28. So NHTSA is trying to finalize legislation on detecting impaired drivers in the cab. There's been a bunch of videos on that running around recently. They're basically trying to do things like, detecting even your fingertips. They'll be able to tell with IR cameras what your blood alcohol level is. And then beyond that, reading your lips, being able to tell you what you're talking about, even without the audio, having your car testify in court against you. Essentially, if you did something and you're in court, they can pull the video from the internal facing cameras in your car and say exactly what you were doing a millisecond before you got in an accident. They're already doing that with Ford Mach-E's and other things, and all the EVs that have this technology. That's, I think, the end game is just complete control of the population. I think that's their goal. Is, they have it with phones to a certain extent, and now they want it with vehicles.
Well, I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. Skynet is coming, and it's coming in the form of a car. And that's because you take your car everywhere that isn't your house. Well, we already have smart homes and we already have cell phones. It's time for them to take over the car. This is the issue with internal facing cameras. If you look at, for example, Rivian's data policy, go on their website, look it up, fact check me. They have cameras inside the vehicle, and those cameras monitor you, and they can use that information essentially however they want. So I think that these claims are just completely otherworldly. And the other thing is, how much can we trust these systems? I mean, look at all the times DUIs get thrown out in court because the cop is wrong. Am I supposed to believe that a computer in my car is going to be accurate or it's going to do the right thing? I mean, let me tell a really brief story. I hooked up to a horse trailer recently. It's a hobby I'm getting into. And I hooked up to a horse trailer in NextGen's test vehicle, the late model Ram that people may know that we purchased, the Powerline 8 vehicle. And I don't believe in backup cameras. I have two of them built in. And so I open the door and I look behind me. And I go to back up, and now I'm on a rural roadway. I had to pull into the roadway to back up to the trailer. When I opened the door and put it in reverse, the vehicle went into a safety mode where I had to, you know what I'm talking
Oh
about,
yeah,
right?
mine does it too.
Yeah. So basically, I got stuck in the middle of a highway, which now, of course, could I easily fix? Okay, you close the door, whatever. Okay, it's not really the point. I also own a 1977 Lincoln Continental. And if I put that thing in reverse with the door open, it doesn't know. Now, here's the kicker. What would happen if I got T-boned because of that? And that was, God forbid, a fatal crash. Doesn't that mean that this safety mechanism killed me instead?
Yeah.
I mean, these mechanisms don't work correctly. And, when you say that, engineers at OEMs will appeal to the decrease in auto fatality over the years. I would argue that a huge portion of that comes down to urban planning and cultural changes, less intoxicated driving. Like, I would argue that these are all adjustment factors that you're not accounting for, because you're saying that the correlation in the decrease in auto fatality when you adjust for the quantity of vehicles on the road is exclusively caused by putting airbags in seatbelts and putting airbags in the cup holder. I'm being dramatic, but my point is, like, that's not the only reason auto fatality has gone down. And so I'm proposing a very simple example where I got stuck in the middle of a road with my door open because I was trying to back up and I didn't have the door shut, and I was doing so intentionally. So I just think that there are holes in this technology, and those holes are going to exist when they put them in a Rivian, when they put them in a Toyota. It's not going to stop. And worst of all, we're starting to see companies like Jeep, or better said, Stellantis, or whatever their name is this week. They're starting to lease advertising space in the vehicle, in the infotainment system.
Yeah.
At what point do you own something that you bought? Can you imagine if you bought a home and then there were like advertisements in your home that you couldn't take down? That's so otherworldly, but that's where we're at with cars. It's not going to stop. And the only way to correct this behavior is to financially boycott them by just not buying the things.
Yeah. Just to go down the conspiracy theory hole again, and I don't know what you think about this, but my theory is that the auto industry is buying all of these NVIDIA chips, AI chips, and they're putting them in cars. It's already in a lot of them, and it's contractually obligated through almost every manufacturer. My thought is that this is control. It is kind of in conjunction with this social credit score system that is coming. It comes in different forms, but it's like it starts in the phones and then it can be in the cars. And I think it's going to be related to pre-crime. I think they're just going to use all of this data, sort of like Minority Report, where once they have all of your data real time, now they're going to utilize AI to analyze your behavior. And if they can analyze that in somewhat real time, or even just like an hour or two delay, they're going to try to use that to determine whether you're going to commit a crime, like a murder or whatever. I mean, they'll try.
Well, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I think that's what's taking place in other parts of the world right now. For example, China. So I don't think that's ridiculous. I think it is a slippery slope. I don't think that's a logical fallacy. It's super possible. And I'm a bit paranoid about things like that myself. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I'm not doing anything wrong. And then you get people who say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, why do you care if they surveil you? So this is why we have the Fourth Amendment. A police officer cannot pull you over and harass you and say, well, you're not doing anything wrong, so why is it a problem for me to search the vehicle? You're not allowed to search the vehicle because I said so. Okay? You have no reason for pulling me over. You can't pull me over because you're bored and have nothing better to do, and then dismember my vehicle looking for evidence that I've done something wrong. That's in the Fourth Amendment. And that's important because just because you didn't do anything wrong does not mean that you should be liable to be surveilled by the government. And I don't think it's any different when organizations that have this intimate relationship with the government, like the automotive industry, do the exact same thing. It's not going to change. When you endorse behavior like this, it just becomes the new norm, and then it gets worse. Sometimes we endorse good behavior: airbags, seatbelts, head restraints, shatter resistant glass, cabin air filters are a good one, so you're not breathing chemicals all day. I know that I'm pretty aggressive about catalytic converters, but they do serve a purpose. I just disagree with the execution, right? Like, we've supported things that made sense in the automotive industry throughout time. And when we support those things, they become normal. What we shouldn't do is financially support bad things, because then they will become normal. And the fact that there's any chance that we're supporting advertising inside the vehicle, or we're supporting studying people's eyes with AI, it's just otherworldly. It makes no sense. That's my Rottweiler back there. She has a higher IQ than Jim Farley. So maybe we'll put her
It
in
looks like she's in
charge.
pretty good shape
Yeah.
running up the stairs.
She's got plenty of space to run around. So
Right.
yeah. Well, you know what? We can put her in charge of Ford. So
Yeah.
what'll end up happening, instead of them gang stalking you through cameras, maybe the steering wheel's like a bone, like on the Model S Plaid, they got the
Right.
yoke steering wheel, just be a bone. No, but on a real note, it's just completely ridiculous. It's otherworldly. And the worst part is that these people know better. Like, I was joking in the beginning when I said Jim Farley drinks too much tap water. Look, I'm sure he does, but the reality here is, like, he knows better. He knows better. This guy was in charge of Toyota and Lexus during some of their best years. And what was the outcome of that? Amazing cars. So it's not like he doesn't know what the right thing to do is. The problem is that people like him are basically just they're prostitutes, but instead of the commodity being sex, it's scaling the equity per share of a company. And that's the service he sells. And he doesn't care what level of degradation and moral decay he needs to be in to get there, because he's getting paid to do so. And that's the problem. They're just hookers for share value. And so whatever they get paid to do, they do. And it looks like right now he's getting paid to go in front of cameras and tell people that they're going to drop dead if they work on their car. And now obviously he's going to say, well, I didn't say that. That's not exactly how I worded it. I really don't care, because the reality is that their actions for the past 20 years have been finding every way to make your car impossible to work on. Whether it's constantly changing software, whether it's radio frequency identification, whether it's encryption, they have found every way to make your car unserviceable. I have built an engineering firm that designs and manufactures in-house all around, allowing people to fix modern cars. And 90 something percent of people that buy something here create that outcome on their own. We want it to be 100%. But we're also facing a tall order. Like, we're trying to get people to upgrade transmissions at home. That's complicated, and we've made it as easy as possible. Every diagram, everything you can imagine. If I and my team, with less than a dozen people, can make that happen, I am so unwilling to accept that Ford can't make that happen. And the craziest part is, can you imagine? Sorry if there's a squeaking in the background. It's a dying toy. Can you imagine if Ford Motor Company and OEMs in general were to say, you know what, we're going to give you everything you need to fix your own vehicle, and then we're going to make a ton of money on parts?
Yeah.
People would be happy to buy the parts if they knew they were going to work right, and they knew, hey, I'm getting a diagram on how to put this in. Like, well, that's something that we do. We design all these aftermarket instructions and everything. We have so much free. Okay, free. It doesn't cost a penny. You can go on our website, look it up right now. It's free educational material on what is probably the transmission in your vehicle or whoever's watching this, problems and what symptoms they create, the likelihood that those problems take place for people, how to properly fill them, what codes correspond with what conditions, bolt diagrams. Like, what you want to learn about your transmission? It's free. We have less than a dozen people and we do that. Why can't Ford do that? Because they're too busy firing their greatest talent, like Faisal Khalaf. Okay, Google it. Whenever you are right about something, and that right is inconvenient for people in a position of authority, you become the bad guy. It's never going to stop. I design parts for a living, and let me tell you now, I'm canceled from everything in the transmission world and 80% of the car world. It hasn't kept people from buying product. It hasn't kept us from growing month by month, year by year, because the public is on NextGen Drivetrain side. The public is on the side of repairability. And so I'm just going to continue to do that.
Yeah, the manufacturers, it's clear to me why they're doing it. I mean, it's very obvious that you can create entirely new business models and revenue streams when you make your software required. You put features behind gates that require software. Like if I want a remote key on my phone through Uconnect, I have to sign up for Uconnect's, data privacy thing, and I won't do that. So then therefore I don't get the features on my phone to, remote start or locate my vehicle. So you lose out on features. That's what they're going to do. They'll block features if you don't give them all your data, block upgrades. Like you're saying, eventually you just won't be able to upgrade things and you'll have to take it to the dealer. And they almost want to strike fear in people, from the company that can't build, like GM, they can't build a V8 anymore that lasts, right? They'll put 3 or 4 V8s in a vehicle and they all die. And these are the companies telling us we shouldn't want to fix our vehicles. We shouldn't want to repair them. And we've got independent shops like Dave's Auto Center rebuilding their V8s and removing DFM and actually making them reliable. It's absolutely insane what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We work with Dave's Auto. They're great guys and they're super knowledgeable. So it's so wild that people say, well, you're going to die if you work on your vehicle. Well, based on what? This is what I don't understand. Nobody questions this stuff. Like, obviously, there's a few talking heads on YouTube like us who say, what the hell's going on here? That's delusional. But the average person hears this and they're so asleep that they just say, okay. And they're like, well, I just won't work on my vehicle then. It sounds dangerous. And I just think it's dishonest. I'm going to continue to bat for repair. That's what my firm does. So for us, it's about moving the mission forward that you can fix your car. And so that's why we do all these free educational materials. Something that we implemented recently is we now have a full-time employee, 40 hours a week. He's a transmission builder whose entire job, he's very computer literate, entire job is guides, educational materials, diagrams, diagnostic support. It is free. It's just crazy. Why can't Ford do that? And you know why we do that? Not only do we believe in repairability, but the other reason we do it is because it builds so much trust and so much confidence in people around our brand that they're like, you know what? Now that I feel like I need this product, I know exactly where I'm going because I know who makes the best upgrade kit for my transmission. So if some tiny slice of people that explore that free content buy something here, then great. And if 99% of people don't do that, great. But we believe in repairability and we're willing to front the cash to prove that. We're going to make sure you can fix your own transmission. It sounds like Ford doesn't agree with our philosophy.
Yep, it's not going to change. It's going to get worse. And this new driver impairment technology will be the ultimate lockdown that they need for everything. Because once that's in place and once it's a law that it has to be included in all vehicles, then they can make the case that all of the data needs to be constantly fed from the cars to the mothership. Once that happens, then they can claim, well, it's just not secure to have this data outside of our networks. And then that.
So who owns the data? When I buy a vehicle, who owns the data? Like, that's the question, right?
Right.
And this is why I think it's so important as someone who designs car parts. Like, I truly believe we need, and there are very few things I look to the federal government for, but we desperately need the federal government to create some pretty aggressive data legislation. And nothing that currently exists is adequately protecting people from this sort of malicious behavior. Like I said, I don't ask the government for much. I kind of assume that 99% of what the government does is automatically incorrect because that seems to be their track record. But if there's anything they could do to advocate for normal people, it would be comprehensive data legislation at the federal level. And it's not going to happen. So you need to financially boycott them.
The legislation they're looking to put in through NHTSA is the opposite of that. The unintended consequence of impairment detection in a vehicle will be the excuse that Ford and GM and everyone needs to say, oh, we can't shut it down. It's all connected. It's all connected. We can't shut it down. And that means we cannot give independent repair shops and everybody access to these things.
It's corporate gang stalking. That's what it is.
It's going to be their perfect argument to, and it'll be in law. So, they'll say, well, you wrote the laws and we implemented this and we abided by the laws. And now we can't give, Nate or the car care nut or whoever it is, we can't give them access to these things because then you might have remote access to other things or turning the vehicle off or whatever it is. And that's
I find it crazy that the people saying that you'll die or get raped in a parking lot if you fix your own vehicle are the same people putting cameras in your and not telling you that they're watching you. It's completely insane. So, somebody's going to grab my, in a parking lot, but you want to have a camera facing me all the time that you get to just record?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds to me like you guys are the creeps. You know what I mean? I'm just a normal person. I don't want this. I don't agree with this. And I don't think that anybody else really does either. But the issue is that it's not mainstream information. Like you have to understand, like we'll do a video together and it'll get 50 or 100 or 200 or 400,000 views. And we'll be like, wow, that was a successful video. But that means that for every person that viewed that video, 1,000 people in the United States or a couple thousand didn't see it.
Right.
And the other problem is that the people seeing these videos probably already know that the automotive industry has run away. It's completely renegade. They know that. It's all the people that don't see it that need to hear the message. And that's why sharing things like this is such a easy civic way to improve people's access to information. But search engines need to be flooded with content, like what you and me do and like what other people who are banging the repair drum do. This is nuts. You shouldn't be allowed to do this. You have people who run these companies telling you that you're going to die. You're going to die if you work on your car. You're going to get your hoo-ha grabbed in a parking lot or something. What the hell is going on? Why do we enable these people to make decisions like this? And the worst part is they just continue to sell vehicles. People buy them. And so they think this is okay. I'm going to continue to do this. You need to stop buying these things. Everybody at home just needs to stop endorsing this behavior. Barring one vehicle that we use for engineering at NextGen to test parts for a kit we're coming out with, there are no new vehicles in the company or in my personal life. Okay, I mean, everyone that works here drives an old vehicle. I mean, the newest one is like 8 years old or something. Why? Because we know better. We know better. We don't want this. We all do this for a living and refuse to own new cars. What does that tell you?
Yeah. That's why used cars are continuing to go up. And being hard to find. So,
well, the age of cars on the road continues to go up. Like I said, 9 out of 10 products that we embark go in a vehicle that's 20 years old or less. Okay, and roughly that same number reflects the age of cars on the road. The average car on the road now that's not a fleet vehicle is 12 years old, I believe it is at this point. It used to be 6 or 7 years old. So people are now driving older and older cars because new cars don't have the value proposition they once did. They continue to go up in price and down in quality. Just stop buying them. I design car parts for a living. That's what I do. Stop buying them. They suck. I don't own them. There's a reason I don't buy these things. They are designed to fail. And I've made so many videos in the transmission industry about how modern transmissions are specifically designed to fail outside a warranty. And I show the receipts. I show the proof. I'm patent pending on a delete kit for the biggest problem on all of them, in my opinion. And so I tell people all the time, just stop endorsing the behavior. When you buy these vehicles, you're sending a message to them that is the only language they understand, which is money, that you agree with their behavior and you're going to continue to support them, just like we did with good things, airbags, safety belts, shatter-resistant glass, two-piece steering columns. I mean, there's so much stuff that we could have. The automotive industry had lots of flaws in the beginning. Okay, we all know this, like no head restraints, glass that was made out of lattices, so it would just shatter to a million pieces. Right? Like so many things in the automotive industry have been fixed throughout time. Getting gang stalked by giant companies and them recording my every move in my vehicle and then showing me advertising was not a problem I needed fixed.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Nate. I appreciate it.
Sure, anytime. Don't buy a new car.
Yeah.
Or drink tap water.
Yep.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Mad people in the comments.
I know. You remember when I said that the earth is not flat and I got like all that hate mail?
I was surprised how many people.
I said that earth is round, and the amount of hate mail I got was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Sad.
Yeah, still waiting for someone to explain magnets.
All right, man. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.